let's recommence the action. We join our Cape Escapers, having crawled into a mouth, as you do, and emerged down in the very depths of the lighthouse, where this strange orifice of otherworldly lights dances in the middle of this room. Here we see the injured Mr. Man and the transformed Iceberg awaiting you. Mr. Man averts his gaze, looking shameful as he is reassured by one of Iceberg's many hands wrapped around his head.
I think Sandals is really surprised by this, but I think hearing the fact that he spoke with his like sentient voice, like he is in control of himself in some sense, has deeply reassured Sandals, because it also confirms to Sandals that he was right when he made the guess that this would not change Iceberg like it would change the others. I brought this up earlier in the campaign, and I said even if it does anything to him, I don't think it will kill him, not like the others. So I think with that, Sandals approaches them and puts his hand, just one of his paws, very gently on whatever.
Hang on, one second. Is Jet in this room?
Yes, Jet arrived first.
Okay, I was like, we need to stop, because he was never acknowledged. I'm like, we need to...
Yes, everybody's here. Jet arrived first, then the others, and then finally
because he would
Sandals.
have an immediate reachon to play out that we have resolved.
I imagine.
Oh, sure.
But because you didn't say his name, I was like, wait, is Jet not here? Is something
here.
wrong?
Yes.
I mean, Jet is going
first.
to
Yeah,
just
fine.
sprint to Mr. Man.
And I think the others would already see you up there with him by the time they arrive.
It's a very, like, almost motherly moment of just, like squeezing his face, checking, like, he's fine, like, he's okay in some level. Like, just this confirmation that needs to happen.
He
And then just
leans his head into you and just starts crying.
and he just pulls him into a hug. Like, he's taller, so he's not hugging his wound. He squeezes his Melvin's head into like the crook of his neck, and that's the scene that they walk in on.
Yes.
So I think with that happening, Sandals walks up to Iceberg, who's probably just listening to this because he has his eyes closed, or at least occluded in some sense. It looks like there's something dripping from his eyes, so I think Sandals notices that immediately. And then he puts his hand on an appropriate location for how tall Iceberg is. I do not know how tall Sandals can reach on how big this creature has become.
Let's see, 8 foot, 5 foot.
I imagine that Jet recognized Iceberg vaguely as a shape, but having seen Melvin, did not actually look at him.
Yeah. Like, there's someone else here, who cares? Melvin's
So
here.
the question of whether or not he would attack Iceberg because Monster is just, I don't know, there's some there's a vague polar bear shape in the room that isn't done any, that's not doing anything. It doesn't matter.
There sure is.
Yeah.
And your hand probably comes up to the belly on him. You're at belly size.
I think he puts his hand on like the side of his belly and says, I've been looking for you for a while. What's happened between us in the past doesn't matter much now. I'm very happy to see you here.
I am.
Though I don't think you can see me. Can you?
Not in the way I was able to before, but it is reassuring to hear your voice, to smell your little ferret odor.
I think Sandals frowns at that because he was trying to be very nice, but, you know, they are kind of frenemies, you know, so a little bit of jabbing is to be expected.
I'm glad we are on the same page.
It's like a Bara Bloodborne boss.
I think with this, Sandals kind of, takes a step back. Now that he has acknowledged that the bear isn't going to lash out at him and kill him, he's going to get to the bottom of this and say, like, we need to talk. I don't know if everyone here needs to hear everything that we are going to say. I think he turns to like Javier, Grayson, Manifesto, because obviously Jet is a little bit preoccupied. Turns to them and says, "You're welcome to participate in this conversation. I don't know how much of it will make sense to everyone. I'm sure some things that will make you uncomfortable will come up."
I'm already uncomfortable, my friend. Continue.
Mm-hmm. And then Sandals turns to Iceberg and says, "Would you like to talk about what you know?"
There is much that I know. Too much. This is part of the bargain I have struck with them.
I knew that something like this would happen.
Thankfully, I have learned much about the rules they operate under. And as such, I know they will not intrude upon us.
Well, that's relieving.
One of his hands points down. Per the contract, they are not allowed to behold nudity.
Of course. I think Sandals has the most shit-eating grin on his face right now. And then just says, he can't help himself. He says, "So we can't sing copyrighted music?"
That drives them away immediately.
Yeah, I thought so. Well, good to know. Happy birthday is always in the back pocket.
I think that's in the public domain now, actually.
Really? You were always better at that sort of thing than I was.
Just the reveal that he's naked.
Yeah. So as this conversation is happening, I just want to give room for other people to have interactions before I think Sandals and Iceberg have whatever conversation they're about to have. Is there anything we want to get done, deal with Jet, deal with Mr. Melvin before this happens? This sidebar, I should say.
Grayson has total confusion. Like, I don't remember that in the contract. He's going to pull the documents back out and start re-reviewing that section.
Oh my God. I forgot that you have the contract.
You have a copy of it, yeah. You do notice that it looks like there's some boilerplate portions stapled in from the YouTube terms of service. So anything that you can't show on YouTube, the viewers are not allowed to see. By the way, the viewers, quote unquote, are called out in the contract.
This is completely in line with how, as far as I can tell, Marty has read every EULA he's ever encountered.
All right, so if the viewers show up again, we're just all stripping naked. Is that the agreement? I mean,
if you want to, we really only need the one.
You do take up a lot of space, my friend. Good for you on that regard, but
Sandals being 5'4" is like, I mean, it's kind of hard to miss.
It is.
Okay, so
what?
Sandals,
the Coke bottle?
The 2-liter. So they walk over, I think, to one of the columns or whatever. I think Sandals is actually being pretty sincere here with giving Jet and Mr. Man space. Sandals brings Iceberg over to one of the columns. I think Sandals is being kind here. He's doing the thing that you do with people who have poor vision. Mm-hmm. Where you put like a hand on them and they put a hand on you so that you can walk them and help guide them so that he's not tripping over these mushrooms, he's not walking into the well, not hitting any of these large columns. And as they get over there, Sandals kind of looks to Iceberg and says, a question for a question. I will trade you what you wanted to know about me for what I want to know and what I do know about what's going on here. Is that fair?
Sandals, I think we are past the point of such exchanges. I will tell you whatever you want to know. I have no expectation. You are under no obligation to share about your past. I do not think it is relevant.
Is he telling the truth? Do I need to roll something to figure this out? This is extremely shocking to Sandals.
This is extremely shocking to Sandals, but you hear how tired he is in his voice, and you think he is telling the truth.
Okay. I'll start with something that I know, and I think you'll be able to fill in the blanks. This is all about Jet. But what we learned about Miss Potatoes earlier was that she set this up. I've been thinking for a while that's kind of weird. Why would she focus on this place? Why would she use Mr. Man to get to Jet? And I realized something. Realized that she isn't a businesswoman. She's a talent scout. What is she trying to get at with Jet?
As far as I can tell, and I had Larry translate some things from the contract for me before he took their offer. Jet was needed as bait to open the door.
I thought that too.
It seems like he may be from wherever these things are from, and I do not think they will leave until the twice promised is returned to them. However, with the way this was stated in the contract, I think we are once promised, and two of us is enough to end this charade.
Holy shit.
Sandals lowers his voice to Iceberg and says, Melvin and Jet are at the center of this story. And I think it would be very unfair to steal their spotlight.
This may be true, but I have glimpsed at the other side, and I know there is no going back for me. I'm going to go through. Sandals, will you come with me?
I think Sandals doesn't respond to that. It's not that he's not doing this to avoid the question or like change the topic. He is actively thinking about this. I know Iceberg probably can't see that, but I think I think like everyone else who's part of this understands that this is a possibility that Sandals is actively considering. And then he says, I hope it is not uncouth to say that I need to consider this proposal.
Of course, it is not something I would take lightly. Melvin here attempted to dive in headfirst, saying that it was all his fault. He should be the sacrifice, but I knew you would be coming. I knew we had other options.
Melvin is a fool. And I mean that.
He's just over there ugly crying as you're saying that.
Yeah. And I think he says, like, I mean that in the archetypal sense. He is the fool. He is the buffoon. The one that this whole thing hinges around. And I don't know how to bring that to conclusion in a way that works for everyone. But I'm trying. I'm trying very hard. Okay? I'm trying my best, Hans. I'm really working on this. And I think at that moment, like, Sandals is actually affected. Like, he's like a little bit sad. He's shivering. He's freezing fucking cold right now. He is so cold. And I think
he
even the tears. Yeah, the tears on his cheeks, I think, are even like frosted dew at this point.
Though Iceberg cannot see you, he seems to sense this trauma radiating from you, and he does pull you in for a big hug with all four of his big arms against his soft, warm belly. And it doesn't make everything better, but it makes you feel like maybe at some point things might be okay.
I have other questions, but I think the others have things to ask you as well. And then I think he turns to Javi and Grayson and Manifesto, and he says, I told you he would know more than I would.
So, what does staring in the well do to me? I just rolled a 3 for stability. I felt like I had to roll that because I recognize those swirls. It's the same thing I saw in the lighthouse earlier, so it's just I've been staring at that the whole time.
It absolutely is the same thing you saw in the lighthouse earlier, and looking down in there, you see like this prolapsing tunnel of infinite color that gyrates in ways that your brain doesn't really comprehend. Fortunately, you rolled at least a 3, so you don't take any stability damage from looking down there, but you do feel like car sick. You feel motion sickness looking down into it.
Absolutely. So because I didn't totally lose it, I did overhear that conversation with Sandals, so I mean, I guess this is what it is here. One of us has to be Gurgi. Have you seen the Black Cauldron?
I think Sandals laughs at that and says, no, but I've seen a video essay about it.
Okay.
The Schwarz Cauldron? Yes, it's a very good film.
Yeah. It wants someone to jump in there, but whoever's going in isn't coming back out ever.
That is the conclusion I have come to as well.
Now,
couldn't we just have like a rope or something and dangle them in them there and then pull them back out? Would that violate the terms of the contract?
I do not think this will be sufficient.
No, I totally understand the self-sacrifice and everything, and good thought, Manifesto. But what if instead of us violating the terms of the contract, we got them to violate the terms of the contract?
I think Sandals' eyebrow goes up at this, and he immediately turns to Grayson and says, I'm sorry. What?
Well, obviously there's things that they're not allowed to observe, and they hightailed it out of here just from one undressed individual. I'm going to keep pouring over this. I wonder if there's something that gives us a different out.
Fucking Chekhov's
man.
Grayson.
Grayson does have a point in law he can spend.
He also has 2 points of bureaucracy he can spend.
Oh,
God,
no. Saving the points for the end.
Oh my goodness. All right. You want to give me a law or bureaucracy spend? Your choice.
Let's do a bureaucracy spend.
Okay. So you're going to start poring over the contract again, finding some way to force the viewers to renege on their portion of the contract. That's going to take a moment, though. So other conversations can play out while you're doing that.
Absolutely.
But that's an exciting prospect. Even Iceberg has perked his little barriers at the prospect of that.
Who has the goggles right now? Was it Manifesto? It was Javi?
It was one of us. Yeah, we were sharing them. Yeah, and we would both be willing to hand them over, I'm sure.
Yeah. I think Sandals at this point is like steeling himself for something. He goes over to Javi and Manny and says, I don't know what would be better. If you were to wear the goggles or if I were. If I wear them, I'm going to need your help. If you wear them, maybe you can communicate with her better.
You know, I've already seen it before. I don't see the problem. I can put him back on.
Okay. So Sandals, I think, then looks to Iceberg and says, how much did you learn about Bullet?
I looked at official records. I know when she was born, when she died, but that is about it.
I think to that, Sandals recognizes his restraint and says, thank you. And then steps aside the group so that Javi can look at him and see his baggage, and we can have something of a seance.
Let's do this. Okay, so I put the goggles on and I see her. What does she start doing?
As you behold her, you see her clenching much tighter around Sandals' neck than she was before. She is putting a great deal of strain upon him. And as you look at her, she turns and starts to look at you, her head craning around 180 degrees to stare directly at you.
Is she there?
Oh, she's there. I tried talking to her. That's not fair. She can't even see you. Does she respond?
Her mouth gapes open, and you start to feel very cold.
I think Sandals touches the bullet that they gave him, the viewers gave him in his pocket, and he's holding it in his hands. And I assume at this point it is basically just like burning his hands with how cold it is.
Yeah.
And he says, just to her, but to no one, I'm sorry that I could never have met you. what happened to you is unfair. You didn't hurt anyone. And I think for a long time, I've been living in your shadow. For so long, I've thought that you were something missing from my life. That you were something that everyone wanted, that I couldn't be. And I think I held that against you. And I think that's unfair. I'm so sorry for how your story has been told. I'm so sorry for everything you weren't allowed to do, that you weren't able to do. But I still have something to live for. I can't miss you. I never met you. It's not fair for me to hold that against you.
As this speech is happening, Javi, you see her attention slowly drift back towards him, even though you're looking at her, which is a first. And
Okay.
you see it looks like her grip on him is loosening.
I think to this, Sandals looks over to Javi and looks over to Manny and looks up at Iceberg and says, for a long time, I've done my best to hide a story that should have been told a long time ago. You see, in my hometown, there was this bridge. And it was said that if you drove over it during a snowstorm, you would see a girl in the road. She would stare and point at you like a deer in the headlights. And if you swerved to slow down, to get out of the way, when you got out of your car, there was no one there. For a very long time, I thought this was just a story, just an urban legend that was told. People on the playground would talk about it. It was a piece, a myth, a story that just overhung the town I grew up in for so long. And so I thought I would look into it. For years, I've lived under the shadow of my sister, a girl named Bullet. I never knew what happened to her. She died a very long time before I was born. My parents were in their 70s. I was their last chance at a kid. And I never asked questions. She was always there, hanging over me. A ghost, someone I had to feel bad for. Someone my parents mourned quietly, that I could never live up to. One day, I was looking into that legend. Stayed up late. I read encyclopedia entries about my town. I commissioned the police reports. I looked into everything I could find. And I talked to someone about it. And I think Sandals looks up at Iceberg and then back down at his feet. And he says, and what I found is that stories are so often based on truth. That sometimes an urban legend is started because a girl walking home from school one day is just caught in a blizzard without a jacket. And then she dies. And for 20 years, her parents and her friends and her town just suffer. And her story gets warped into something that it wasn't. And people come to look at it and to jeer at it and to mock it. And so often, the stories that we tell are not the truth of what actually happened. They are fiction. They are entertainment for viewers that have no stake in any of it. This world is a cruel and a sad place. And all we can think to do is mine it for entertainment. And for that, I am sorry for never correcting the record. And I think to that, Sandals is fully crying at this point.
Iceberg does embrace you to him as you let this all out, as you feel catharsis at some of this baggage you've been carrying around with you begin to lighten and leave your shoulders.
And I think to that, Sandals, through the muffled, he's not sobbing, he's just crying. And he says, sometimes you have to accept that things will be painful, that there will be awful times in life, that things are just unfair. In order to find some sense of closure and happiness, keep moving for those who are still alive, for those of us who can still keep going. And I think with that, he looks over at Jet and Mr. Man.
Jet's currently rocking Melvin back and forth as he sobs. He's trying to tell him that none of this is your fault. Have you seen this? This is beyond us. None of this makes any sense.
He is just frequently interjecting as he sobs with, it's my fault. I was complicit. They couldn't have done it without me. And as he is weeping, Sandals, you can feel Iceberg holding his tongue, and he does sort of mumble under his breath, "You are complicit in a system of philanthrocapitalism that savages the very people you choose to help with your little videos." But he does this quietly. He doesn't want to interfere with their little
Sandals
moment.
is
Fucking
digging
based.
his little cocaine paws a little bit into Iceberg's belly a little bit. Come on, dude. Even I can read the room a little bit.
I will be quiet. Sorry. And Melvin is just crying his eyes out. And he's like, "I'm so sorry. I just really liked it when the number goes up."
I know, honey, I know. This isn't you. You're way too stupid to have done this.
But
What?
I can fix it. I can end it.
No. We're getting out of this, and we're getting out of it alive. Remember, we're Saber in the mask. We can handle anything.
So oh shit.
Where is he?
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh my god.
Choo.
All right. You get him up out of losing it. He's back above 0, and he cracks a very soft smile even as tears are continuing to pour down his face, and he says, You can do anything, Jet. I know you can.
They used to play as superheroes when they were kids, and he had to pull the wagon.
Oh, I love that so much.
Sandals is looking at this very, through his teary eyes, through how upset he is with this. Is Melvin looking at Jet, looking him in the eyes?
He is.
For the first time.
He is looking Jet straight in the eyes, but he doesn't have that look of like revulsion or wonder at how strange Jet's eyes look. It's like he's seeing something familiar that he hasn't seen in a very long time. It's almost comforting to him. And he says, You can do anything, but I need to make up for my mistakes.
Jet is not going to let go.
So I think at this, Sandals looks back to Javi for any sort of confirmation.
You did not give him a fucking Mr. Beast. Okay, never mind. It's sorry.
So,
I thought you gave him a Mr. Beast branded bandage, and it wasn't just his shirt. I just got caught up. I'm sorry. I was upset.
I'm doing my best to not show Sandals the frustration I'm hiding inside. I'm happy he had his cathartic moment. But I was desperately trying to think of any way to lure that ghost girl down the well. So I'm just thinking, God damn it.
Well, do we know what happened to the ghost girl yet?
She seems to have like slowly gotten less opaque until she has dissolved completely.
Yeah, you.
So while okay, so Sandals pushes himself away from Iceberg, as he will let him. And then he dries his eyes with his little cocaine paws. However, that's probably not great for him. Oh man, I feel like a little revitalized. Good cry is. Anyone else feel really good right now? And then he walks over to the well, and he puts his hand on the well, and he clutches the bullet that was in his pocket. And he speaks to it one last time, and he says, I will never forget your story, but I never knew you. And he drops the bullet in the well.
You watch as the bullet descends into the well, tumbling end over end, and it's almost like whatever force is on the other side slows its descent and catches it, and then slowly guides it down further, rather than letting it slip into free fall.
Sandals looks back at Javi and then says, she's gone, right?
Yeah, she's gone.
I thought so. Sandals, does he feel cold anymore?
Not really, especially with Iceberg here. He's very warm.
Ironically.
Yeah, I thought so. I think he exhales and then away from Iceberg, away from everyone else, just says, I'm very sorry for how emotional I just got. If you don't mind, I just need a minute. And then he walks like beyond one of the pillars away from the group and just, sits down and has a moment to himself.
And I think about now is when Grayson is going to come to the conclusion that yes, these viewers are beholden to the same user agreement that YouTube viewers are. And in fact, if they witness things depicted in the list of things that are not permitted on YouTube and do not look away, they may be breaking their end of the contract. Given the nature of these creatures, it may even be more impactful if that is stated to them as they are doing it.
Yeah, this all seems pretty clear. They can't look at any of it. They can't look at any of the stuff that's in violation of like the standard YouTube content policy. There's been so much stuff happening in this town that they're just not allowed to see, and they're the cause of inciting others to commit violence, fights involving minors, footage, audio, imagery involving accidents and disasters or aftermath of attacks. They can't look at any of this stuff.
And yet it is the penis that they run from.
It's just the most obvious. You can't expect most viewers to have actually read the fine print, right? Nudity's obvious. I mean, if you just... Obviously, we don't really want them to cause another one of these things. But, like, the hand, the arm, that was recent. That was in clear violation.
Very recent. It just disappeared off of him.
And there was a viewer on the other end happily observing it.
Well, if Jet there has their eyes, does that count as them witnessing it? I mean, he's very freaky with his whole ocular situation.
This became the traumatized Jet stream.
Perhaps that is loosening their grip on this world? Or perhaps we must call them out on their many violations.
If only Manifesto hadn't just killed so many of them, there'd be one here now.
Well, they're all running from the nudity.
No, they died on their way out.
Yeah.
All of them?
All the ones that joined you down in the picnic. They have all been smashed or shot.
Hate to say it, I think we needed one of Jet's eyes.
I don't think he's gonna like that.
I mean, we don't need to remove it. It's obviously right there. He's seeing it. He's looking at naked bits right now.
Jed has not been paying a lot of attention.
Jed, we need you to look at him, at the bareness of his bare form.
Before
you can, yeah.
Before you behold my bare necessities, I would request that before we act in a way that severs the ongoing contract, I would like to depart for the other side.
Why does he want to die so badly?
So to this, I think Sandals finally, sits up, and he says, he walks up to Iceberg, and he shakes his hand, reaching one paw out into another. He shakes his hand and he says, "I gave you a lot of shit. but you were a lot better at this than I ever was. And I think I was just jealous of that.
You have always been better at picking your battles, Sandals. That is something I wish I had learned from you better during our partnership. But I do not believe you will be coming with me on this voyage. So I will keep you and your lessons in my heart.
Yeah, buddy. I don't think I'm going where you're going. But I promise I'll finish whatever it was you started.
Thank you. You know my passwords. They are very easy to guess.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's always been a problem with your account. It's kind of a miracle that I never trolled you harder.
Yes, thank you very much for that.
And the whole getting locked out of YouTube for 2 months thing.
Oh, a whole disaster.
Well, yeah, that was...
Unglaublich.
Yeah, and then he, shrugs.
He gives you one last hug, extra tight. You feel your spine snap in a way that reminds you actually have one. It doesn't come up often. It's like, oh,
new
that's
feeling
nice.
for Sandals.
Yeah. And he says, goodbye, Sandals. Goodbye, the rest of you. I do not particularly care for your names. And then he mounts the well, the orifice in the middle of the room that leads to the other side, and he begins to crawl inside, descending down.
Before he fully descends,
yes.
I think Sandals looks at him and says, "Tell her I said thank you."
If our paths cross, I will relay your words. And then he begins bracing himself with all four arms against the four sides of the well and slowly descends down to the other side.
No, he was cool.
We had two really emotional moments, and your takeaway was he was cool. Sure,
was
yeah.
so cool. He was really
he was
cool.
so cool. He had such cool arms. Such a cool polar bear. He really came around.
He
He
had
was such
full
an
of
asshole,
juice.
but really was just ended up really sweet.
Listen, we're all viewers.
And speaking of which, in the very background, one may be able to see Manifesto with his cell phone up, aimed at this whole situation, kind of away from everyone. And if anyone were to glance at his screen, it seems like he's recording this.
Thankfully, he doesn't have like one of those Japanese phones where it's required by law to make a snapping noise when it takes a picture.
Oh no!
That would really undercut the moment.
Yeah.
Just a bunch of shutter noises.
Yep.
Iceberg would throw you in.
I think at this really quickly, Sandals walks over to Javi, puts his hands on his shoulders, puts his forehead to Javi's forehead, and just says, "I know that was probably fucking awful to go through. Thank you very much for doing that." And then he, very tenderly removes the goggles from Javi's eyes.
Javi's gonna have to process the concept of life beyond death on top of everything else.
Yep.
Yep.
I think my reality was already shattered with the first look into the lighthouse. If the viewers are seeing through Jet's eyes, what does that mean? I mean, it still doesn't satiate the well if they break their contract, right? Is there some sort of final moment, something that breaks the contract and lets put an end to this? Or
We've already satiated the well. whatever we have to do with the viewers comes next.
Did we? I thought the well needed 2 spirits if it wasn't the chosen one.
The bullet.
Oh, it took 2. And then I think to this, Sandals looks to Melvin and to Jet and says, they still have a role to play in their story. We need to just see it through to the end.
Melvin is sniffling and slowly coming back to attention. He nods slowly. He seems fully on board with whatever Sandals' plan is. And
No, I don't ever know what he's talking about either.
yeah, it's a lot to follow.
I think he's just trying to be vague to sound smart.
It works. He sounds very smart.
I think to this, Sandals goes, I am smart. How many times do I have to prove this? Why do I have to work so hard? He's like rubbing his nose and he's like, oh, why do I have to prove myself to so many people?
He's throwing a moxie tantrum. He's throwing a moxie tantrum.
Is it warm in here to anyone else? I'm really warm all of a sudden. Oh my god. I guess we're underground. It's warm underground.
And
Yeah,
now that Iceberg has departed, through the tunnel you came in, several watchers, several viewers are beginning to descend. Now that there's no longer nudity on display.
It's extremely fixable.
We've got 2 options as I see it. I can strip naked, I don't really care, but Jet, just show him the severed hand. I think that counts as gore.
Remember, they rewarded it to you.
What do you do with that information?
Let's see. Does anyone? You don't have any cryptozoology left.
No, I don't. Can I?
Does anyone have a media literacy left?
I have an analysis, and I have a shenanigans that I want to pull on you right now.
Do tell.
Can Sandals analyze the situation? And I have a very specific thing I want to come to the conclusion of very quickly that Toaster as a player has come to the conclusion of, but no one else has.
All right, wrote about
All right, I'm gonna PM you really quickly on Discord.
What do you think he's saying, chat? Also, I made a Coke bottle joke about the penis because the polar bears are commonly associated with the Coca-Cola Foundation and their branding and the Christmas and everything. So like it's a really funny joke and you should all laugh about it.
I actually missed that
mascot.
one.
You didn't get that one?
I missed that one. What the hell?
Yeah,
No, I got it immediately.
yeah, that's exactly what the joke was about. Was the fact that Coca-Cola has all those polar bear commercials.
No, I got the Coke dick joke.
Okay. Sandals has spent this analysis point, and I think for everyone in the group, you see him. He's doing the same pose Jet was doing before with the whole like arms crossed with one hand. He's doing the thinker pose, but standing, leaning against this wall. And he goes, I think the viewers have been very naughty. I think they are really interested in things they shouldn't be. And then
Their
I think,
eyes fall upon you as you begin this declaration.
yeah, Sandals smiles and says, a boon, a boon. We want murder. And then he looks to Jet. He looks at Jet's eyes and he says, I believe you are the one that killed Margot Martindale. Were you not? You were the one that bashed her skull in. That counts as gore, my friend. That counts as excessive violence. You did that, and they watched. through your eyes. In fact, I think they're the ones that were inciting violence. And then I think Sandals looks at Grayson, and Sandals says, inciting violence with reactionary speech. That's against the terms of service, is it not?
That sounds like a policy violation to me.
At
come
the
to
words,
think of it.
At the word policy violation, the viewers begin to tremble. You feel the fog that floats around them starting to condense around them and squeeze at them.
Sandals begins to walk forward towards one of the viewers. And I think he's staring at it and he says, there's nothing more alluring to people than something they're not meant to see. Something taboo. They're not allowed to watch. And I think these viewers have been egging us on the whole time. I think they've been the ones trying to circumvent these rules.
The few viewers that remain shudder and mutter soft refutations. No, your fault, not ours.
I think this whole time they've been trying to make a story, piece of fiction, out of something that's actually true crime. I think they've been the ones trying to get us to do things we didn't want to do. No. I think they're the ones that are breaking the rules, not us. We're not culpable at all.
And all for the sake of content.
We make content. We make content for them, after all. This was never a horror story. This was a romance. This was a love story.
They gasp.
I think Sandals smiles and then looks to Melvin and looks to Jet. And then he says, as he has many times before, play your part.
Melvin looks up to Jet, looking into those golden eyes that he's admired for so many years.
Jet glances at Melvin, then back at Sandals, and is like, I'll have you know that I would never do something like that under duress. This is extenuating circumstances for this kind of thing.
Jet, I have already established you're the talent. I'm the director. Now kiss.
Melvin's blush is unavoidable. His ears fold down a little bit as he looks up at Jet with a trembling lip. He waits. He thinks that Jet will finally take the initiative on this. He's been quiet for so long, but as he looks back over to Sandals, he realizes he needs to take initiative for this. He needs to make up for the things he has done and for the things he has not done. He needs to make amends. And he reaches up and he kisses Jet.
What are you?
Oh.
And
all Jet has ever wanted was to be seen by Melvin. And I think finally that's happened.
And man is crying again, but a different kind of tears this time. He squeezes tight around Jet, and the viewers are revolted by this. And
not good
this
for
is not what they
YouTube.
came for. It sure
Yeah,
isn't.
not
Gay
LGBT
on YouTube?
content shadow banned immediately.
This isn't against the contract, but it is against something.
The algo.
The algo. And the viewers begin to shriek and descend down into the orifice, disappearing from view. And you feel a rumble around you as the lighthouse quivers and shakes. Sandals, you feel the stone of the lighthouse, and it feels disappointed.
Mm-hmm. I think Sandals, the number one feeling in his heart right now, not his brain, his heart, is smug vindication. He figured out their game and he beat them at it. He never compromised. He never once went against his ideals. He figured out their stupid algorithm, their stupid riddle, this thing he's been trying to figure out for years now, this thing he's been struggling to understand with all of the validation he's wanted off of his channel. And seeing this happen, I think he finally knows he has what it takes.
Excellent. We did it, gamers. We saved the day with a kiss.
Yay!
Manifesto got it all on camera.
Yeah! That's going in the director's cut.
Well, that's
All
going
right.
to be a branding change for Mr. Man.
Oh, absolutely. So, following that, our Cape Escapers are able to make it out of the tower. They see the fog lifting, they see the sun cutting through the sky above. And for the time being, at least, they are free of Cape Karma, of Escape Con, of all of the tragedy and nonsense that has happened here this extremely long and eventful night. And to wrap things up, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at what happens to them afterwards. And I think the best way for us to do that is the same way we started it.
Oh,
Incredible.
I forgot about this.
Oh,
Those
man.
who remain.
Oh, this is so exciting.
Oh my god.
All right. It looks like first up, we're going to take a look at the Embrace. Following the events of Cape Karma, the survivors return home. Some of them changed, some of them a little broken. After such a close brush with death, Naomi Nezumi retires her Twitch channel and finally makes good on her long-standing threat to open an OnlyFans. She quickly becomes one of the site's top earners on the MILF tag, despite never tagging herself that way, much to her frustration. It seems if you're over 21, you're a MILF. That's just how it goes these days.
Genshin Impact
Honestly,
characters
good
are
for her.
daddy.
Yeah, I respect. That's cool as shit.
And that's where she ends up for now.
The best possible ending.
Who do we take a look at next? All right. In morning.
Whoever clicks first is so powerful.
Yeah, you're setting the precedent.
Profoundly intense.
You don't want to be the person who clicks something else.
You don't want to start an internet argument.
Oh no!
After burying and mourning what remains of his wife, Martin Martindale manages to secure the film rights to what happened in Cape Karma, and he just sits on them. He rejects all bids to adapt it into a film, a play, a novel. Her story is going to stay with him.
Oh.
Good for him.
He
Yeah,
never had a chance to understand
Seriously.
anything that
I
was
think
happening.
Sandals probably has kept in contact with Martin.
All right.
Oh.
I think we're going to look at the scapegoat next. Let's see.
His arm's back on.
Thanks to your efforts, you managed to secure Mr. Man's arm and get it reattached, and he only has a little bit of loss of function, but he does have a good amount of money and premium healthcare insurance. He regains most of the functionality in his hand, but he also goes to prison. He ends up essentially being the fall guy for this whole fiasco and almost seems eager to fall on his sword and take responsibility for what happened against everyone's advice. Most people of his means would get a golden parachute and have like house arrest or maximum security vacation jail, but he insists on doing the time for the crimes he felt he committed.
This motherfucker's gonna make Jet a prison wife and then upload a video to his YouTube channel for 10 million views. Like, I went to prison at the end of all this. With a
That
stupid
is exactly
smiling
what
face.
happens. He does go to a prison that allows conjugal visits. So that's what happens with him.
It's completely in line with all those fucking Mr. Beast videos and the absurd premises.
All right, let's take a look at the shepherd.
Oh, the protagonist.
Shepherd?
I love her lo-fi fucking apartment to sleep,
Serious.
study, and relax to. Oh man.
She's not doing anything to shed the impression that she's cool as shit.
Yeah, no, my total waifu.
Maven
character.
tries to keep in contact with everyone following the events of EscapeCon. She arranges regular Zoom calls to check in with folks. It's sort of a form of group therapy for the shared trauma they've all been through. But over time, the group of people who keep coming to these meetings gets smaller and smaller until there isn't much steam left to keep it going. She ends up retiring her channel and goes back to school to study history and folklore to try and find some answers about some of the things she has seen.
I'm very
Where's
amused that
Sandals
the
in all of this.
no, where's Javi in all of this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that the
Sandals is
real
last
moral
person-
the real
the
moral
last
lesson at
person
all
who comes
this.
to the Zoom calls.
The moral lesson at all of this is just stop doing YouTube.
Yeah.
Everyone stop doing YouTube. Stop. Just delete your account. Never upload again. It's the ultimate
All right.
sin.
Looking at serendipity. The next morning, after Cape Escape has ended, Moon awakens, having demolished all the
This
food at this
motherfucker.
table, and fell asleep. He just had like a
Stoned
food coma.
idiot.
He wakes up with like a tummy ache. He ate way too much, and he's like, "Oh man, what happened? I should go find Jet." and just missed out on everything. But after the events of Cape Karma, he doesn't have a whole lot of work to do for Mr. Man anymore, so he ends up working at a record shop because those are finally coming back now that vinyls are being used as wall decorations. And a few months later, ends up marrying Casey.
Mr. Man's first gay friend, my literal ass.
Jet, will you be his best man?
Of course.
Aww. I'm really counting on you, Jet.
I can't believe he just slept through everything.
Yeah.
I was wondering
He
where the
got
fuck he
too baked,
was.
okay? It happens. It happens. No shade at all. Good for
Like
him.
a few characters were the casualties of our particular route through the puzzles, and then when we chose to like set things off.
So funny.
That same morning that Moon is waking up from his food coma, Miss Potatoes emerges from her bug-out bunker beneath Madame Anne's boudoir, extending her satellite phone to report in to the higher-ups. She taps the steel briefcase that is attached to her arm by a pair of handcuffs, and she says, "Yes, the package is secure. Heading to the rendezvous now." As she hangs up the phone, something massive shambles through the fog towards her.
Oh no!
The putrid form of a tormented beaver, its body convulsing as myriad pustules across its flesh erupt and regenerate over and over again.
That's the one dude besides those are the two characters we didn't know what happened to them after the first like hour of the game. Oh no.
Rip Kurgan.
Before the beast can reach her, a single shot rings out, the smoking barrel of a high caliber firearm extending from her grasp. 2 more shots ensure there will be no further surprises.
No. Oh, does that mean the last ones are Jitters and Goose?
Man, we really fucked up by not killing her. I was like really like if we were gonna find her again, I was going to try to murder her.
She disappeared behind the lighthouse, so I thought we were gonna find her.
We haven't
at
seen
the
her
lighthouse.
for a long time, yeah.
I guess she was at the one place we didn't go.
Who the fuck is that?
Sandals had the fucking read on her.
That extra person was very startling.
All right, broken pieces.
Did he not change back? Is he alive?
Derek managed to repair a good portion of his altered body. Thanks to Sandals' efforts to stabilize him, he did survive the night. After the events of Cape Karma, he went back home and tried to form a union again since he no longer has bones for them to break, but they just fired him instead.
No.
Now he helps Mikey manage his channel and his finances. He's actually adopted him, legal guardian status, until he hits 18. He also occasionally appears in Mikey's videos when they do Five Nights at Freddy's parodies, piloting
Oh god.
his boyfriend Goose.
They're all gay.
He's
I think
been building some modifications for Goose to help him with everyday living, including a new voice box.
Oh.
Oh my
I
god.
think every once in a while, Derek Jitters receives a call on his cell phone from someone whose name in his contact book is just C.E. Barrett.
Goose lived, everybody. His life's just a little distressing now.
Hey, he can talk though.
He can talk now.
Good for
Does he
him.
just eat by like unzipping and just like slipping a watermelon in there? Like what the fuck?
Yummy.
His mouth still doesn't open.
The world may never know.
That means Silence is the frog boy.
Yeah.
And checking
Oh
in.
yeah, that's not good.
hey, Mikey's gonna grow up to be a very resilient, and he's got 2 body horror adoptive dads, and he loves them. So,
and he's now immune to your mom jokes.
Oh, completely.
Yeah.
Batman was an orphan, buddy. Let's go.
This is his Alfred and his Lucius Fox.
Oh my god, he does have a butler.
Mm-hmm.
It's a rich kid with a butler.
I wasn't wrong.
No.
Bellamy gets treated for his lack of mouth and studied at a UCLA medical research center. They resolve his bizarre transformation as some sort of errant second puberty, since frogs undergo such dramatic metamorphosis after leaving their tadpole phase. Afterwards, he retires back home to Liverpool, and no one's heard from him since.
Oh, yeah. Potato totally escaped for, like, sequel bait.
Oh, God. Why'd you pick me?
Good for her.
She's still
Good
out
for her,
there.
Honestly, girl boss. Gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss. Am I right? Let's go.
She's out there to arches this and extend the universe.
All right. Manifesto. Why don't you tell me what Manifesto does after the events of Cape Karma?
Well, after the events of Cape Karma, Manifesto is in the unique position as having some of the only footage of the situation that went down, in which basically he is given his one opportunity to kind of glean fame from a tragedy. And the question of whether or not he actually takes advantage of that is something that he is still weighing to this day, especially with the threat of the lawyers from that certain Martin fellow who has been trying to keep it all under wraps.
Yep.
In the meanwhile, he has been trying to build his brand at various high schools and elderly community centers in the Madison, Wisconsin area, and sending his ex a plethora of emails saying, "Hey, did you see me on the news? Hi, how's it going?" And he's still awaiting to hear responses back.
And unfortunately, he hasn't gotten a response back on his attempts to set up a grudge match with Commander Sterling either.
Oh, no.
So a pretty good end for Manifesto, all things considered.
These ones are a little harder to guess. Wait, extruder is the opposite of intruder, so is it Javier? Yep.
Yeah.
I'm smart. I'm
So,
clever
Job, Keith.
and
Good
cool.
What
job.
happened?
Claps for Keith.
Clap, clap. What happened with Javier after the events of Cape Karma?
So he still continues his documentation of abandoned places, but he started working with the ghost hunters who he still kind of looked down on, and he knows a lot of what they say is still bullshit because he kept the goggles. And so he kind of goes to abandoned places, scopes them out, see if he can find anything weird or creepy about them, and just tries to sort of build up the history of these places and blogs about it.
He's doing good work.
Doing good work, but it's not completely the most healthy. It's almost a bit of an addiction, right? So he makes a somewhat productive hobby out of it, but there's some nights where he just like pops a tab of like LSD or something like that because he feels like it helps him see a little bit of the lighthouse again.
Get back to that state of mind, that transcendent place that he spent so much time in.
There
Yes,
is
I dig
no
it.
lighthouse.
All right. Lost one. Dreaming one. Twice promised. Where does life take you after Cape Karma?
Well, Jet's, due to his newfound nepotism, doesn't really have to work anymore.
This is true.
He's lonely, but in a different way, where he's loved and reciprocated upon. So it's gone from this nothing to this, and this resentment and this confusion, this frustration, to this long distance occasional thing, which is a significant step up for him. Given that he doesn't have to work, he's gone on to pursue other interests. He's developed an interest in art and drawing comics and so on. He's started a series that is cheated into publishing, a comic series featuring Saber and the Mask.
Aww.
Given their background, he doesn't really have to earn his place in the industry. The comics do not receive good reviews.
Essentially a vanity press.
It's very Gerard Way is done with My Chemical Romance, and you can't stop him from publishing comics.
The Netflix show will be really good.
Yeah,
someday.
then there'll be a fantastic Netflix adaptation years later that really really elevates the material, and then people will go back and read the comics, and they'll really, my favorite character went like that. This is my entire arc with Umbrella Academy.
All right. Well, that's a pretty good ending for him. I'm happy with that. I'm happy for him. Let's take a look at the Revenant.
Look at Toaster trying to escape his fate.
All right. Christmas comes at the Grayson household. The man of the house is able to return home to his beloved family in time for Christmas dinner. Little Snapper, slightly less Little Petunia, and wife. So, what's Grayson's life like after the horrors of Cape Karma?
Well, anything is better than being in Cape Karma, but he's particularly happy to get home in time for Christmas, especially having retrieved the gift that was promised, but also a gift that wasn't promised. He ends up taking the NordVPN Tesla home.
Ooh! Who's gonna stop him?
We should have
Instead of
decided
his
what
Corolla.
Teslas we each took home. Who got the
My
Bat
wife is
Dragon?
gonna be real happy about that. Good for the environment too. Loving this.
The fact that it's the security one. It's the safety one. Oh my god.
You have to think long and hard about it.
He definitely is thrilled to be home to his family. That was the thing that was missing for the whole ordeal, is not having that comfort of security or security of home, though he was trying to help with the security of others. But the numbers problem does not help him at work. But through this experience, he's lost whatever was holding him back from advancing. So he actually ends up taking a higher position in a legal capacity instead of just doing on-site safety coordinator roles. So he actually comes out of this experience all the better, even though he's damaged in some way.
And you do manage to find some physical therapy adjacent courses that help you figure out how to deal with numbers. You essentially have to memorize and translate them into new symbols in your head and then translate them back. So there's a little bit of a gap there, but you do eventually get at least okay with them. We all left pieces of us at Cape Karma, some more literally than others.
Manifesto's tooth.
He's fine.
I think we got to see that apology. Oh boy. Back home, up in the Northeast, Sandals returns to his family home. What's life like for him after Cape Escape?
I think in front of everyone, it is slower and more concerned with his family and with his parents, especially. I think from a public perspective, he announces he is going to take a step away from his channel. He does put out an apology video for ever having being involved with Mr. Man. He should have seen the warning signs. He should have never gone to Cape Escape. Escape Con was a bad idea. He should have known ahead of time that it would have been a bad idea. But thankfully, he was not involved, whatever this toxic gossip train may have said. He had a very low down, scary situation where he just stayed inside and didn't really do anything. He is moving away from the public eye in order to take care of his his elderly parents. I think he has probably taken he tells people, I should say, he has taken a job at a local library where he is working with the town's local historical society, dealing with various events in town that have not been given the time of day, nor have been given the recording diligence that they deserve. But at night, he has a very frequent correspondence with the people that have survived Escape Con. He is in very close correspondence with Derek Jitters. He is in somewhat less close correspondence with one Maven. And he is, I think, on his own, slowly poking into the truth of this world and just how much we all can influence it if we really try.
Wonderful. Wonderful. A great end for a great person.
Sandals did nothing wrong. He was a pure-hearted little boy who was very kind and helped bring this love to fruition. And you're all welcome. And he did it out of the kindness of his heart.
You let us know, viewers, how canceled is Sandals. I should mention,
that looks fun.
Jet has with the hat gone, has graduated to sunglasses for practical reasons.
Oh, hell yeah.
One thing I meant to mention is that while this is all happening, Sandals is continuing to reap the AdSense payouts from Iceberg's channel, and is thus not actually working a day job.
Oh, wonderful.
Lucky.
I can't believe that Iceberged reality.
Good for him. Good for Sandals.
Meanwhile, on the other side, Iceberg has a new world to explore, a new truth to uncover. He clutches a small medallion hung around his neck. It's a bullet. It remains cold, even in this realm where temperature doesn't mean all that much. But it's something to remind him of where he came from, of who he left behind in his search. And that is the end of Cape Escape.
Iceberg became unbelievably cool.
Yeah,
He was always cool.
He turned into like
He's a polar bear,
Olgra,
baby.
like from the prequels to Dark Crystal. He turned into comic book universe origin story Olgra, like it's wild.
This is good stuff. I'm
Thank you
feeling really
guys
happy.
so much for playing. You made this an amazing game.
A wonderful job again, Ka. You killed it. You destroyed it. No one can beat
Yeah.
you.
Oh my god.
Thanks. Round of applause to Ka,
Yeah,
our
this is
absolutely
insane.
incredible DM. Thank
was
you
so much
so
fun.
much for putting on this incredible game that I think was way crazier than any of us ever expected from every single perspective that you could ever possibly imagine. The level of improv and situational awareness and preparation that went into this was just beyond fathoming. It was the most eldritch truth of anything that we have discovered this entire time. So thank you so much, Ka. I speak for everyone. I say we had just an incredible time.
We had
1,000
no idea what we were signing up for.
Not at all.
Hey everyone, Editing Keith here. What follows is the post-game discussion, but since all those spoilers are out of the way, now I'm going to show a slideshow of any remaining fan art that came in as a response to the stream that I couldn't show until now because of spoilers and all that. There's a reason to look at the screen right now if you aren't.
Oh, that was wonderful. And again, big shout out to SundaysPlayzone for doing all the character art for this. It was absolutely amazing. I managed to get last minute shit out of them as late as today.
Yeah, I was like, hang on a minute, these are going...
Incredible.
You did not... There's no way you planned some of this.
Yeah.
Just next level stuff.
When I took a panic walk the day before, like practically the day before this, be like, I really did nail down this fucking character. I have not had ideas. I did not expect throwaway details about a hat used for antisocial purposes and a crush on the organizer to turn into the fucking plot of the entire thing.
Hey man, it
And
happens,
that
right?
set the precedence for the entire session, the entire campaign from my perspective, where I just kept fucking winging it. I'm like, here we go, alright.
I mean, that's a lesson for everyone watching, right? If you want to get into tabletop, you want to learn how to play these games, you want to have fun, just fucking wing it. Like, this is how you do it. You just go for it.
If anything that Jet ever did sounded clever, I definitely made it up on the spot and was completely panicking. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. If you like this video, definitely subscribe, and please consider supporting Gnollplaying games on Patreon. There is a lot of custom art that needs to be paid for to make these shows possible, and as a thank you for your support, over the next few months you'll gain access to short stories that develop the Cape Escape universe, as well as behind-the-scenes peeks at our upcoming series, Dead Laws.